Hello friends. So once you set up your raised beds or garden, it's time to provide some kind of an irrigation system for your plants. Now if you provide a nice irrigation system, what it lets you do is it lets you forget about watering your plants on a regular basis, and it pretty much does a decent job for you. And using drip irrigation or micro irrigation, you can save a lot of water compared to the sprinklers that you are already using. So as you can see, we already have a sprinkler system set up here for the lawn, and now that we've converted our lawn to a raised bed, what we can do is use the existing sprinkler system and set up a micro irrigation system. So you can see how this sprinkler appears on the riser, and you should have one sprinkler on each corner of your lawn, maybe more. And what we're going to do today is try to convert the sprinkler system into a drip or a micro irrigation system. So you can start doing this activity of setting up your irrigation system right after you have set up your raised beds. I actually set up my trellis because I had some PVC pipes laying around, but it's best if you just have your raised bed ready and then get going with setting up your irrigation system. So to convert your existing sprinkler system to a drip irrigation or a micro irrigation system, you will need a converter which converts your sprinklers into a low volume irrigation system, which looks like this. It basically fits on top of your existing sprinklers and then also has a built-in pressure regulator. Remember that micro sprinklers use less water pressure than your sprinkler systems. So this comes with a built-in regulator, a 30 psi regulator, as you can see here. It also comes with a filter built in and an inlet which goes to your sprinklers. And what it does not come with is what we're going to see right now. You need some garden staples to secure your pipes or your main line. Your main line is a tubing, a half-inch tubing. This is 100 feet tubing. And these are the micro sprinklers. Now these micro sprinklers are very different from the sprinklers that you use for your lawns. The micro sprinklers will only spray a short distance. You can still spray a larger distance if you wish to. It's adjustable. All of these are adjustable. These are 180-degree adjustables, and we also have some 90 degrees. So the one on your left are the 180 degrees, and the ones on the right are the 90-degree micro sprinklers. You will also need some elbows to connect your mainline tubing, and also some T's so you can branch out your mainline tubing. And you'll soon find out how many of these you need. So if you look at this diagram, this should give you an idea of where to place your micro sprinklers. So basically at the corners of each bed, you will place the 90-degree micro sprinkler, and you will place a 180-degree micro sprinkler right in between your large beds. So the first step is to turn your timer in the off position. And now carefully look at all the sprinkler heads that you can see, and if you want you can just dig it out so that you can see it in a better way. And the first step that you would need to do is cap off all your sprinkler heads except for one. So what you basically do is remove the sprinkler head from the riser by turning it in an anti-clockwise direction. And you can remove the riser from any level. So if you have a short riser below your main riser, that's perfectly fine. Just use the threaded cap to cover the riser, and that completes the step of capping off the sprinkler head. So you can repeat this step for all your sprinkler heads except for one, which we will use as our source. So go around and make sure that all the sprinkler heads are capped off with the appropriate sized threaded nut. So I'm going to show you how to replace your sprinkler head with this riser connection kit. Now note that I did not use this as the candidate for watering my raised beds, but I'm just going to show you how it needs to be done by using this sprinkler head as an example. And once you attach this riser connection, you get two main lines of irrigation that you can run along the top part. So you will choose one candidate sprinkler head that you will use for your drip irrigation line. Make sure everything else is capped off and you have one emitter left. And what we have done is we have attached our product to that one emitter that was our candidate emitter, and to that you would attach your main line, which is your 1/2 inch tubing. And now our aim is to get that 1/2 inch tubing all the way across towards your raised bed. So if you remember, we spoke about the garden staples. The garden staples will hold your main line while you are attaching all your accessories or all your elbows and tees. It just makes it easier to work with the 1/2 inch tubing. Now remember that a new 1/2 inch tubing might be a lot springy, so just bear with it. It will come to its regular shape in some time. So keep using those garden staples and keep securing your main line. So at the corner you will use an elbow to connect your main line to come towards your raised bed. So you can see that elbow connected in a corner, and the mainline tubing just goes inside the elbow right away. You can just push it in. Now this is a T that will go towards the raised bed. It will take your main line from the ground to your raised bed. So let's complete the connection between the elbow and this T. So just push in your main line inside the elbow on one side and then insert it in the T on the other side. It's actually very easy to do this. You might need to use a little bit of pressure to push in those tubings, but it should be fairly easy. And the mainline tubing is very easy to cut. You can either use pruners or scissors, and it does a good job of cutting the mainline tubing. Here you can see you have to use a little bit of pressure sometimes to push the mainline tubing inside the T's and the elbows. And the first bed is usually the most difficult to set up. Once you get the hang of how the system works, setting up the rest of the system is a piece of cake. So we can now use the garden staples to secure our main line again. And you can keep doing this as often as you want. You could also use some hammers if your ground is very hard so that the garden staples stay in place. I have a lot of grass here, so you can see that the staples are not staying in place. So you can make some adjustments with the length. As in my case, I was seeing that the length was a little bit more, so I just cut it a little bit short. And if you have raised beds, the advantage is that you can even use some PVC clamps to secure the pipes along the raised bed. So this is what it looks like after completion. That's the PVC clamp. They're basically plastic clamps which you can screw onto your raised beds. So we have elbows on the four corners connecting the main line. That's our PVC clamp again. It holds it very well in place. Now we spoke about micro sprinklers, but that's not the only option you have available. For your drip irrigation or micro irrigation project, let's see what options you have. So this is how our completed project looks like in action. All the emitters are now spraying. And remember, these micro sprinklers are adjustable, so you could regulate the speed by just turning a knob just like that. So you can spray very less to a lot more. And these are the micro sprinklers on stakes. Now, one of the reasons I like using micro sprinklers instead of all the other options is that a micro sprinklers can cover a large area very easily. With the other kind of emitters, let's say for example with a soaker hose, you would need to know exactly where your plants are on the raised bed. And in most cases what I've noticed is that I sometimes randomly place my plants around the raised bed. For example, okras are 6 inches apart, whereas tomatoes are a feet apart. So if you use a soaker hose, you have to keep changing the position of your irrigation system. Whereas if you use these micro sprinklers, they will only spray inside your bed, but it will make sure that it covers the entire area of your raised bed. And here you can see the suggested run time for these micro sprinklers, and that should give you a good idea. So this technique is expandable as well. As you can see, I added elbows here to keep the main line straight, and then I also tapped off into a separate raised bed irrigation line for a raised bed that I added later. So I hope this gives you a good idea to set up irrigation for your raised beds, and I'm sure that you will be able to easily set up your own drip or micro irrigation system, and that should save you a lot of water and keep your plants well watered. So I hope you liked this episode, and I'll see you again soon in another episode of Califomia Gardening. Until then, happy gardening.